Coming up in just a few minutes, a wealth of information for you, the home satellite TV viewer. Stay tuned. Good evening. Welcome to Satellite Showtime. I'm Pat Olson. This program is brought to you by our fine corporate sponsors, including Luxor North America and Qualtronics Incorporated. We have an information-packed show for you this evening. Mike Gustafson will tell you why you receive some transponders better than others. Bob Cooper has a conversation with someone from Maycom, the company that's manufacturing HBO's descramblers. And you'll also learn how to get a satellite dish up on its mount properly. All that, plus an industry news update, is coming right up.
Luxor, space-age technology at an affordable price. Satellite receivers, antenna actuators, remote controls, and auxiliary sensors, all by Luxor. Here's a totally integrated satellite television reception system. The Luxor 9550 remote controlled satellite receiver. 24 channels, selected, fine-tuned, programmed for automatic recall. 4 different audio systems, built-in RF modulator, automatic polarization, 2-speed scan, video inversion control, AFC defeat, and Dolby noise reduction and more. The Luxor 9534 antenna actuator, automatic satellite selection by remote control, all at the touch of a button, remarkable ease and accuracy. And the Luxor Mark II, a high-performance block satellite television receiver system, several sets, each having their own independent channel selection at the same time from a single antenna. That's the Mark II. Just a few of the high-performance, technically advanced satellite products from Luxor.
The Trans-10 by Qualtronics, already a national leader in its first year because of quality, performance, and strength. all at a highly competitive price. Compare, and you'll see why it's a leader. Easy to look at, low luster appeal, black finish, and baked acrylic thermal set. Parabolically formed hub, a solid 14.5-inch diameter in prime steel. Ribs of superior strength tubular 16-gauge steel encased in polytrans vinyl. A patented design assures maximum reflector signal. UPS shippable anywhere in this country. The Trans 10 by Qualtronics, quality and beauty at a competitive price. Tested and approved to withstand wind velocities up to 90 miles per hour. Yes, tested and approved for 2-degree spacing by the McDonnell Douglas Corporation as well. The Trans 10, the antenna for every season.
For a limited time only, you can receive Channel Guide for a special reduced rate. For just $9, you will receive 8 weeks of Channel Guide, a month of Galaxy One magazine, and the all-new 1985 Whole Earth Station catalog. That's a $20 value for just $9. Then close check and address, and you'll start receiving the original grid format for satellite TV. Due to this low price, no phone orders may be taken. Write today. Channel Guide, Department 808A, P.O. Box 1633, Englewood, Colorado, 80150. Do it today.
Welcome back to Satellite Showtime. You may have noticed that HBO is test scrambling more these days. STV Magazine tells us HBO is now scrambling 17 hours a day, so there's no wonder you're not able to see much of the station. And often the unscrambled programming is on only between 2 and 7 in the morning, making it all the more difficult for you to see the programming. For those of you interested in stopping scrambling, there's news tonight about 2 bills in Congress. 2 pro-satellite bills in the U.S. House of Representatives are gaining more co-sponsors. Those bills are H.R. 1769 and H.R. 1840. You are still encouraged to write to your U.S. representative asking him or her to co-sponsor one or both of these bills. H.R. 1769 calls for a 2-year moratorium on scrambling, and H.R. 1840 calls for a fair marketing plan for scrambled programming. Now on to another major industry issue, zoning. Fall is just 6 weeks away, and early fall is when the Federal Communications Commission is expected to approve a proposed rule on zoning. That rule would preempt local zoning ordinances that are overly restrictive. And more news from STV Magazine. In the footsteps of the sports network ESPN, the USA Network has announced it is going to charge a fee for its unscrambled signal. $25 a year beginning this month. The USA Network says its fee will be based on a provision of last year's Cable Communications Act that allows cable operators to charge for their signals, whether they are scrambled or not. And the same as ESPN, the USA Network says it will provide a program guide to those who pay the fee. And the network will put those paying the fee on a priority list to receive a descrambler. USA Network says people will need that descrambler when the network scrambles, which it says will happen by this time next year. Tonight's question of the week is about ESPN, CNN, and USA Network's decision to charge a fee for their unscrambled signals. Tonight we ask you, are you willing to pay a fee for an unscrambled signal, and why? Call us right now. Our phone numbers are 608-647-4246 and 608-647-8902. Again, our question of the week, are you willing to pay for an unscrambled signal? And I see our first call coming. Good evening, Satellite Showtime.
The reason I'm not willing to pay is because if it is a commercial supported station, then that's advertisement. And I believe that when you advertise, you're trying to reach the most people. You're out for the market. An unscrambled signal is being paid for already. So why should the consumer pay double?
Thank you very much for your call. Again, our phone numbers to call and answer our question of the week are 608-647-4246 and 608-647-8902. As I told you a few minutes ago, HBO is now test scrambling its signal 17 hours a day, gearing up to scramble full time. HBO's descramblers will be provided by MACOM. Tonight, Bob Cooper begins a 3-part series with a MACOM official talking about his company's position and predicament.
Nothing in the history of TVRO has created so much controversy, so much mudslinging, so much misinformation as you've got it scrambling. This week, and for the next 2 weeks, our guest will be James F. Bunker. Mr. Bunker is Senior Vice President of MACOM, Burlington, Massachusetts. The folks at MACOM claim that they've been dubbed the guys in the black hats. And the reason they think they're called the guys in the black hats is because their corporation was unfortunate enough to win the contract from Home Box Office to provide the scrambling, descrambling system for the cable television networks. Well, Mr. Bunker doesn't believe that his firm deserves to be called the guys in the black hats, and this is our opportunity to find out why he thinks so. What in the world would MACOM have to gain by what has been occasionally attributed to you as some sort of a conspiracy in all this?
I'm glad you asked the question. MACOM has absolutely nothing to gain in any kind of conspiracy or plot or domination. You must realize we are in the home TVRO business. We build a large supply of antennas for the home backyard market. We supply receivers, down converters, polarizers, cable. Anything that MACOM does or did or would do that prohibits or inhibits the growth of the backyard TVRO market makes a direct impact on our present sales. I mean, so there's nothing in our strategy or plan that would make sense for us to slow down or negatively affect the home TVRO market. I think some of the words that have been said and written about MACOM, we teasingly refer to the black hat. I may have commented to you, the black hat came with a contract in the sense that we are the vendor of the hardware and the software for the encryption system.
You made a point about that to me that I knew, but I hadn't focused on it. You are bound by a contractual term with HBO to something called confidentiality. And that puts you in kind of a spot in terms of being able to respond to some of the charges that I and others have made. Is that not true?
Very true. There are certain things that are considered confidentiality in the contract, in general the contract. But with HBO and Showtimes, there are other items which we have considered it vital or necessary as the questions have gone on that should be openly discussed, like selling modules to receiver manufacturers, like licensing competitive manufacturer of the descrambler module, like making the specifications available at the meeting in La Jolla in March. Those are all contractual requirements, like consumer ramp-up or consumer availability of consumer units. Those are all contractual items that we agreed to, committed to, willingly and knowingly back a year or more ago before the project started. But it wasn't obvious, and we probably, along with the programmers, did a bad job of explaining to the world what those requirements were. And I guess shame on us for not being more clear, and just shame on us for not explaining that to the TVRO industry.
Well, you just did, and I thank you for doing that, because it has been construed that all of the arrangements relative to the descramblers per se were MACOM Linkabit created, and what you're saying to us is that you have an agreement, a contract with HBO and Showtime, and that all that had been worked out in advance, and you are responding, correct me if I'm wrong, you're responding to those contractual terms.
Well, we're doing our best to fulfill our commitments. That's absolutely right.
But MACOM is betting that the scrambling system will not only work, but it's going to work properly, and that Home Box Office, and Cinemax, and Showtime, and the Movie Channel, that they're joined by a number of other programmers on satellite, and that everybody's going to line up and back this thing to the hilt. But of course, there is another possibility. Jim, suppose the promotional efforts of Home Box Office somehow failed. They just did not create the kind of demand necessary to make their program economically viable. What are the contingency plans? What happens next if you've built a lot of descramblers and they've gone out and done their best to promote it and not enough people come up as customers?
Well, I think that would not be contingency, or maybe if HBO were the only programmers to scramble and offer a service, then we obviously would wind down and slow down our production ramp up very quickly. However, we still believe and committed to that many of the programmers will scramble, many being 12, 15 of the major programmers, basics, and therefore the pressure will be on us to continue the ramp up. If only HBO, and they were unsuccessful, then of course we would ramp down our production capability.
HBO is another firm that has been accused of being the guys wearing the black hats. At least that's how the TVRO dealers and the TVRO distributors view home box office. You know, HBO could go full-time scrambling tomorrow, this very instant. They could push the button right now if they wanted to do it, but they haven't done it yet, and they claim they won't do it. They won't do it until there are sufficient, adequate numbers of descramblers in the home TVRO marketplace. Well, that means we're right back to MACOM again. When will MACOM have their production capability up so that there will be sufficient numbers of descramblers in the marketplace so that our friends in the black hats at HBO can go ahead and scramble like they say they're getting ready to do?
We have we've released to manufacturing, as you know, the first production quantities of materials and boards and descramblers. We will start assembling and testing initial production in about June of this year. I say about June, scheduled for June. And we should have small quantities for deliveries to distributors in the late summer, early fall. When I think of quantities or available to start a service, then I think we are in the late 1985 before HBO could start a small test service across the country.
What is it?
So the date certain time is really towards the end of 1985.
Well, that means tomorrow is out. That is, tomorrow being Friday or Wednesday or whatever day it is you're watching this. Tomorrow is not the day they're going to start scrambling. Maybe sometime late in 1985 or even early in 1986 seems as if it might be the earliest opportunity for HBO to finally make good on all those threats and finally scramble all those channels. And that buys us just a few months more time. Well, Space, our trade association, they have a plan to buy us even more time. Space wants Congress to adopt legislation that will create a 2-year moratorium, a 2-year period during which no scrambling can start until the marketing mechanism, that means the descramblers and the way those descramblers are going to be marketed, till all of that is in place. What does MACOM think of a moratorium on scrambling? Space has requested in Congress a bill, a moratorium for scrambling for 2 years from, one assumes, the date of passage of this legislation. How do you see that bill today in Congress having any effect, or a lot of effect, or no effect? Where do you see that legislation falling?
Well, it certainly would not have a positive effect on MACOM, as we've been preparing hardware and software for a pay service. In talking to some of the staffers involved with that bill, I came away with the impression that the bill is driven towards assuring that the TVRO owner has 2 or 3 things available to him. One, he has access to the program. When the channels are scrambled, and you notice I didn't say if, but when the channels are scrambled, it will be offered to the homeowner, TVRO homeowner, the programming. 2, the people down there want to assure the homeowner does not have to buy multiple decoders or descramblers to receive the programming. And 3, the consumer units will be available in the distribution pipeline before the famous sky goes dark comment. And as I told the people there, I've chatted with you, it's been the plan all along, all but not maybe conveyed properly to the distribution channels and the homeowners, that those 3 things will take place before there's a viable service. At that time, I guess I would question, is there a real need for legislation? If those things don't take place between late summer or early next year when this bill would come to fruition, then the opportunity or the possibility or the requirement of a moratorium would be strong. If, as I believe, these things are going to happen, the 3 requirements will take place between now and the fall, then I would question the need of the moratorium bill.
So our battles are ultimately headed for the halls of Congress. Someplace between here and Congress, there's jockeying for position. Everybody wants to be a leader. Nobody wants to be a follower. Everybody wants to be in charge. Who will end up in charge of the potentially lucrative scrambling world? Jim Bunker has some more comments on that subject.
It's not clear to me, being in the equipment supply and software supply side of it, that any one side or the other is going to end up controlling it. I think it's going to be a normal business.
Well, this is Bob Cooper, and we've started part 1 of 3 parts looking at the scrambling scenario for the summer of 1985.
Next week, Bob will have the second part of his conversation with Jim Bunker, and then on August 27th, he'll have the third and final part. So by the time the Space STTI Nashville show is here, we'll have a clear picture about where MACOM stands. The company that owns STV, OnSat, and satellite retailer magazines, Triple D Incorporated, is also going to buy Coop's Satellite Digest, Bob Cooper's Digest. But don't worry, the Digest will not lose that special Coop touch, at least for a while. Coop will continue to contribute editorials for the Digest for the time being, and Triple D will do the publishing. Coming up on this evening's Satellite Showtime, why it's so important to know about satellite footprints, and just ahead, placing a satellite dish on its mount. Stay tuned.
Are you confused about satellite programming guides? Are you tired of monthly inaccurate guides that are big and bulky and about as much fun to use as a city phone book? How about tabloids with hard-to-read print, incomplete movie listings that are about as easy to use as a road map? Or newspaper guides with confusing grids that fall apart in your hands? There is an alternative. OnSat, the easy-to-read, easy-to-use weekly programming guide with more movies and sports. Best of all, OnSat is only $39. That's right, 52 issues for only $39. But don't take our word for it. We'll send you a free copy of OnSat, and you can judge for yourself. And if you're a dealer, ask about our dealer program. Make your customers happy and make money. Call OnSat now. Toll-free 1-800-438-2020 or write OnSat, Box 2347, Shelby, North Carolina, 28150. OnSat, you've seen the rest. Now try the best.
Welcome back to Satellite Showtime. Installing a satellite dish is not always an easy matter, but Shelburne Films of Reedsville, Ohio is trying to make it easier. The company has produced a film called Installing Satellite Antennas, and we show you a portion of that film now. It's about setting the dish on its mount.
If you've got a bigger dish like this 13-footer, you may want to get some extra help. Well, here goes. With the mount tilted back, you should be able to set the dish in place and hold it easily while you bolt it on. With smaller dishes, you probably won't need something like this to get the dish up in place. With larger or heavier dishes, you might need a backhoe or even a crane to lift the dish into place. Once the dish is secure, attach your azimuth bar, whether it be a tube type, a hand crank, or a motor drive. The thing that makes a dish into a satellite antenna is the electronics package. That is, the feed, the rotation system, the LNA, and the down converter. Some systems may use a block down converter. Others may use an LNC system that combines the LNA and down converter. Attach the feed and rotation system to the LNA, making sure the rubber gasket is in place. Attaching the down converter directly to the LNA is a good method of passing the maximum amount of signal to the down converter, but the watchword here should be weather protection. The electronics should be covered with a weather cap or sealed well with coax seal, or, probably best, mounted behind the dish in a weatherproof box and connected to the LNA via a short length of RG213 or 214. We then attach the electronics to our mount and position the feed at the focal point. Your instruction should give you the focal point figure in inches. Measure from the center of the dish to the mouth of the feed. Take several measurements from the edge of the dish to the feed to check for proper centering. It should be even all around. Be precise. The focal point is where all the signal collects. Bob Cooper, a pioneer in home satellites, tells us why this is so important.
One of the more interesting things about satellite antennas is that they don't always work exactly the way the manufacturer intended for them to work when you take them out of the box. The trick is the feed. We'll look at why the feed itself, it can be misadjusted and cost you many precious dB in signal. The secret of the proper performance of an antenna is found right here. It's a circle. It's a circle with a hole in it, a little piece of plastic that covers the hole to keep the moisture out. All of the satellite energy that collects on the satellite reflector itself collects down here in the reflector and returns to this spot or some spot like this within this opening. It's your job as an installer to make sure that this whole assembly, this outer ring and the hole in the center, are positioned exactly in the one spot where all of the energy from the satellite dish will focus and then collect. Since this portion must be exactly in the center of the whole surface, you have a rotation mechanism this way. 2 Allen set screws in this particular Odom series dish release, and then this whole mechanism rotates left and right. Again, what you're trying to do is to find the exact precise center where all of the energy is focused by the surface itself. The other important adjustment on any satellite dish is found at some point in the center of the dish, the point where the feed support structure here is actually mounted. On this particular Odom dish, we have, again, a couple of Allen set screws that are up here in this corner. And as they're loosened, this whole mechanism will slide in and out to set the distance from this dish surface back to the focal point on the dish itself. Very, very important that everything you do with a dish be done precisely and be done with the proper instrumentation. When you take the extra effort to get the extra signal that is possible with any satellite dish antenna, you're more apt to have a satisfied and happy customer and to greatly reduce your own service calls. If you use all of the equipment to its maximum performance capabilities, you'll be a much better dealer.
Of course, you can't really fine-tune all the adjustments Bob was talking about until you've acquired a satellite signal. So next week, we'll talk about aiming the antenna and tracking the belt. After months of hard work on a satellite footprint project, Mike Gustafson is here tonight to talk about the results of it. Here's Mike.
Hello again, and welcome. This time we're going to talk about satellite downlink power levels and footprint charts. What that all means is that each satellite that is launched transmits a certain power level distributed across the United States. Those pieces of paper which indicate those power levels are called footprint charts or contour charts. And since we use this system so much, all of us, it would be interesting to know how much power really is available from each satellite anywhere around the United States. So Satellite TV Magazine, STV, embarked upon a project about a year or so ago to actually outfit a van with all the proper test equipment and traveled around the country to 55 different cities and actually measured all of the power levels of all satellites on video transponders. Now, this is a rather monumental undertaking. It's never been done before, even by the satellite companies. They will essentially predict via a computer model what the downlink power should be in any given location, then launch the satellite, and at 3 or 4 points across the United States they'll check it, and if it is correct in those points, then they'll accept that it's correct everywhere else. But it's very, very expensive to try to go out and measure all these points. So STV decided to do just that. So let's first take a look at the points tested. Here is the listing of points. There's 55 of them across the United States, pretty much covering every state in the Union as much as possible, and many times a couple points within a state. And you'll be able to maybe pick out your favorite city. So let's move on. Now, this next photo here is actually a photo of the traveling roadshow, as we called it, or the Vantana. We have a motorized van, obviously a small camper type of panel truck with all the test equipment inside it, towing a trailer with 2 antennas on it. The 10-foot is a Caltronics hydroform dish, and the 5-footer is also a Caltronics hydroform dish. The data was all collected off the 10-foot antenna. This antenna was range tested. We knew its gain to a very close approximation. All right, what is actually the system besides being upside down? We seem to do that a lot here in California, being upside down. In any event, here is the actual electronic system that was used to collect the information. What we were doing was collecting carrier-to-noise ratio from each of the transponders. Artist's rendition of a satellite, the 9-foot 4-inch antenna, Caltronics antenna, the LNC, we used an LNC this time, it was a Dexel system, receiver and LNC. We had a 3 dB power splitter, a coupler to just isolate, 6 dB pad, 70 megahertz intermediate frequency amplifier. The IF out of this LNC was 70 megahertz, little amplifier, then a 36 megahertz bandpass filter. This was a very, very high quality filter, about 6 or 8 poles for those who know about such things, and then a Hewlett-Packard 435V power meter. The DXR 1300, the Dexel receiver, selected the channels, and then we displayed the information on the video monitor. The process for this was to tune through each of the transponders, noting the power level on the power meter, and then take the dish, drive it into cold sky up to the northern part of the sky, and measure noise power, subtract the two, we come up with carrier-to-noise ratio. Now don't be frightened of this link budget, I'm not going to go into it, but essentially 2 points I want to note. Satellite EIRP is what we want to know, and carrier-to-noise ratio is what we know. So essentially we start out with a carrier-to-noise ratio and we work backwards to get to EIRP. If we knew the antenna gain, we knew the bandwidth of the receiver, we knew the LNC noise temperature, we had it measured by 3 different houses, and we could reduce the unknowns down to a point where we had a very, very good handle on the satellite EIRP. Now, here are the test points across the United States. Each black dot is a point that we traveled to and measured power. As you can see, we covered the fringes quite nicely, tip of Florida, Maine, up into Canada, and then we wandered about the middle part of the United States, filling in as many spots as we could. So the data was taken on all satellites, all video transponders at each one of these points. Now, just to give you some idea of the magnitude of the data, let me show you 1/2 of the book that's required to contain the data. This book, each individual sheet is 1 satellite, 1 transponder. This is Louisville, Kentucky, Galaxy 1. Each transponder is noted, and we continue all the way through all the satellites. Then we go to Louisiana, Lake Charles, etc. There are 2 books just like this that contain all the raw data. So it is a rather large project. Then the computer program that we generated actually took all this data and reduced it down to a footprint chart. But to give you some idea, we filled up a 10 megabyte hard disk just with the raw data. Okay, let's get on to it. What we did to make these charts is we actually filled up the data points with individual data for each transponder. That meant there would be a transponder for every one of these pieces of paper, and we would have a chart. We would write the numbers in that the computer gave us. Then we would actually be able to draw our contours. Connect the dots, if you will. That's something we did as youngsters. Well, it finally came in handy. We would be able to look at the power levels at each of these points and be able to determine what contour would best fit it. So let's, as an example, let's take a look at Charleston, South Carolina as our test location. Let's say we live there or in its general proximity, plus or minus 300 miles as an example. And we want to know what size antenna we're going to be required to operate properly there. So here we have Galaxy 1 footprint. This is the generated footprint. These numbers you see are in dBW. That's a downlink power level. So each line represents a contour. This is the 38 dBW contour, 37 dBW, 36, 35, 34, 33, etc. Getting weaker as we go to the fringes of the country, which is sort of intuitive. But notice one thing about Galaxy, that the whole footprint is low. That is, it's not centered in the United States as you might expect. It's centered more on Texas and Oklahoma. Notice that Denver, in these locations up in here, are 37.5 dBW, whereas down this location we're looking at 38 to 38.5 dBW. But Charleston, South Carolina is right on the 37 dBW line. So let's write that down, 37 dBW. Okay. Now let's take a look at SATCOM 3. Now SATCOM 3 has two kinds of transponders. They have high power and low power. So we have two different charts. Now, note this is the high power of SATCOM 3. Notice how it's much more centered, not low like Galaxy was. And we're looking at 37 dBW in Denver and Kansas. 36, 35 on the contours. But generally most of the country has around 35 dBW all over the country for high power transponders only. Charleston, South Carolina has 35 dBW. So for SATCOM 3 low power, 35.0 dBW. Actually, that's supposed to be high power, but well, trust me for it. All right, now here's the low power. SATCOM 3 again, low power. Note that whereas we were 37 before in this region, we're now 35. That's about right. It should be about a 2 dB difference between the low power and the high power. 35 dBW in the center of the country. Most of the country has 34 dBW. Charleston is somewhere between 34 and 33. We'll call it 33.5. Okay. Now let's move on. ANIC. This is the Canadian satellite. As you'd expect, it's centered more up towards the northern part of our country, the central part of their country. So 38 to 39 dBW up in the border, Canadian border. Down at Charleston, we're looking at 35.5. Still not bad for a Canadian satellite. All right. Now let's look at Westar 4. Centered pretty well in the country. Most of the country has 35 dBW. All of the transponders on Westar 4 are 7.5 watt. They're all high powered. Charleston looks like it has about 36.5 dBW. Okay, moving right along. Westar 5. A little lower contour, starting to look more like Galaxy. Also 7.5 watt transponders. Charleston looks like it's got 36 dBW, a little bit weaker than Westar 4. But most of the country has around 35 to 34 dBW for Westar 5. Telstar 301, the AT&T satellite, centered very well, very nice contours. Seems to carry about 35, 36, 34 to 35 dBW around the whole country. Charleston appears to be about 35.3 dBW. And the last satellite we're going to talk about is D4, Comstar D4. We all watch Transponder 20 on that, don't we? Centered pretty well, 36 dBW in the center part of the country. Charleston looks like it's running about 35 dBW. Now, we have a little chart that we'll now set in front of this last one that essentially takes antenna diameter and satellite EIRP and tells you what the CDN will be. Now, how do we arrive at this? I chose mid-band gain 55% antenna for each of these antenna sizes. I assumed an 85-degree LNA, and I assumed a certain antenna noise temperature in all these calculations. It's a conservative approach. In all likelihood, these numbers are low by about 3, 4, maybe half a dB low. So if we were trying to design a system for Charleston, South Carolina, we would go through our collection of data points and we'd find the weakest EIRP and we would design to that. The weakest looks like it's SATCOM 3, low power at 33.5 dBW. Alright, so we come into our chart at 33.5. Well, let's use 33. We come across the chart, and what we're looking for is an 8 dB threshold. That's our basic threshold number. We see 8 there, we go up. That says a minimum size. Minimum size is a 9-foot antenna. So if we put in a 9-foot antenna in Charleston, South Carolina, the weakest transponders on SATCOM 3 would have just a slight amount of sparkles in them. But what happens if that satellite degrades some more? It's getting older, it's losing power. We need some margins. So let's go back down to 8, and we say, well, let's increase it. Let's give ourselves a couple of dB of margin. So we go across to 10.2. Now that means the weakest satellite power on SATCOM 3 is going to give us a 10.2 dB carrier-to-noise ratio, and that'll be a good picture. We travel up the chart, we see we need an 11-foot dish. So an 11-foot dish in Charleston, South Carolina should give us excellent pictures on all satellites. Now let's, for fun, let's look at the strongest satellite. It was Galaxy 1, 37 dBW. With our same example, 37, we go across to 11 foot, we find out that the CDM will be 14.2. That is definitely a commercial quality picture you're going to get there, assuming you got a good receiver. So this is how you would use the data that's being generated off this road trip. And the data is being put into a book with all these charts, and by the time you see this, that book should be available. So if you are a dealer or someone who's designing systems and want to know about a certain part of the country, these real live, honest-to-goodness satellite footprint charts are the very thing you're going to need. So I think that pretty well wraps it up this time. Thank you very much for viewing, and once again, any questions or anything I can help you with, the name is Mike Gustafson, Post Office Box 20700, San Jose, California, zip code 95160. Until next time, take care.
In the report you just saw, Mike Gustafson mentioned a data book that will be available to you. Well, STV Magazine says that book will be out soon. The data book is from the Vantenna tour of last summer, when 2 men hit the highways and measured satellite footprints all over the country. 3,000 miles into the 30,000-mile trip, STV Magazine editor Chris Schultheis asked tour participant Tim Givens about the trip.
What's it like, 2 guys living in a van for all these miles and all this time?
Read a lot of books.
Yeah.
It's a good many books, and it's fun at the same time. It gets old quick. Staying in motel rooms, trying to get to a certain point by a certain time, looking around on a map, and that looks quicker, but you find out the road looks like cobblestones. It takes a while to get there, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but.
What's the average time it takes you set up to do a complete data check, all the video transponders and all the satellites?
Okay, to do one on just a 9.5-foot dish, it takes about 2 hours, 10 or 15 minutes. To do the whole thing, it takes about 4.5 hours. To do the one on the 9.5-foot and one on the 5.5-foot. It takes a while to set up the camera and everything for the small one.
The Vantenna tour cost STV Magazine more than $70,000, and it involved traveling from coast to coast 3 times. Coming up this evening on Satellite Showtime, the Cultronics video newsletter with Joe Kelch. Stay tuned.
Want to know more about satellite TV? Then go to the source for product reviews and how-tos. We're on the road and out in space, and sometimes in very cold places, with features and technical reports. It's all in Satellite TV. That's only $19.95 for 12 big issues of STV Magazine. Call now, 1-800-438-2020, and get this LCD calendar clock free with your subscription. That's 12 big issues of STV Magazine and the clock for only $19.95. The number again is 1-800-438-2020. 1-800-438-2020. Call now.
Satellite TV Preview is the best thing next to your satellite dish. With all those programs now at your fingertips, you won't want to miss a thing. Satellite Preview lists over 100 transponders in an easy-to-read weekly grid schedule. It has a daily list of movies, specials, and sports, plus a list of sports by event. Call and subscribe now for only $39.95 for 52 issues and save $38 off the newsstand price. Or call for a free sample copy. Dealers, we also have a special offer for you. Call now, 1-800-826-0735. Visa and MasterCard accepted. Satellite TV Preview, the best thing next to television.
Hello. Welcome to Qualtronics Video Newsletter. Reminder right off the bat, we'll be seeing you in Nashville. The Qualtronics booths are 414, 416, and 418, and 515, 517, and 519. We hope to see you there. Our sales staff is standing by tonight for your phone calls. In the U.S., 800-826-CALL, K-A-U-L. In Wisconsin here, 800-826-NOVA, N-O-V-A. We'd like to thank the many dealers who have called in recent weeks, most of them requesting the nearest distributor to them. We appreciate that, and the distributors do too. We like to see new dealers coming aboard. Special guest tonight is Mike Kaufman. Mike Kaufman, you head up the CSC division here at Qualtronics, and you look like you're bursting to tell us something big about some products here. Go to it.
Okay, Joe, what we've got is we're putting together a little promotion here that we plan on doing with our customers that are watching our program. And to kind of explain it, we've accumulated a lot of demonstrators and salesman samples that we would like to kind of clear on out of our warehouse to make room for some different models with some different accessories. And so we're putting together a little bit of a sale. And I guess maybe for those people who haven't viewed our program earlier, tell you a little bit about our two-way radios. We've been promoting the two-way radios, which are professional FM, VHF, UHF, low-band type of radios. Same type of radios are used in public safety. They've also used in business. And also add along here, we've got some mobile telephones and some portable telephones also that we've got included in our package here that we want to move out. And as you can see, there's numerous brand names of products that we do have available, and they have different styles of accessories and this sort of thing in there. And so we put together a program here to move these units on out, just to clear on out the warehouse and to make room for some new models that we plan on ordering with different accessories. And these radios are going to vary quite a bit in price, depending, of course, on the accessories that are in there, Joel.
Where do you start at then?
Okay, we're going to be starting probably right around $325 for a VHF high-band radio. And I would also like to point out the fact that these radios are all state-of-the-art programmable radios. They're not some radios that have been left over from 3-4 years ago that are obsolete with our new technology. These are all new technology programmable radios. And there are many different brands, as you can see here on the table that we've got set up. And I guess what I'd like to point out that this sale that we're having is going to be only of the demonstrators and the sample radios that we have in stock. We're not going to include in there any special orders or anything else that we have in the warehouse. And I think total we probably are looking at maybe about 20 or 25 radios. And some of these are available with scanners in them. Some of them have the private line modules. Some of them have scramblers in them. Some of them have touch tone decoders and encoders in them. And I believe we even have a few that have the two-tone sequential format in there. Also have some pagers. And again, I guess I would like to say that this type of a sale is for the individual that already has a two-way radio system and wants to add a unit or two at a low cost. And also that there are several models that we could put together a small package for the customer. Nothing large. There's no 50 units of the same type that we would include in this particular sale. It's going to be, I'm going to say, maximum of probably 4 or 5. So for the person that has a small business, this would just be a very, very ideal situation where you could probably get 3 or 4 radios at the price that you otherwise would have probably paid for, we'll say, 2 units. And so if you are thinking in the terms of the two-way radios, now would be really a real good opportunity to get in.
Important question, Mike.
Yes.
What sort of a warranty that comes with this unit? Even though it is a demo, do you get any good solid warranty?
Yes, you do, Joe. We're giving a full year warranty on almost all of the products that are included in this sale. It'll almost be a full year on all of them. And I believe that there are just several models that are only covered by 90 days. But as a whole, we can pretty well figure a year warranty. And I'd also like to point out that if you already have a radio system, we can go ahead and program these radios to whatever frequency that you so desire. If you have an existing system that is using Motorola or General Electric or we'll say any top brands, these radios will be 100% compatible with them. And as I said, I have low band, I have VHF high band, and I have UHF. I do not have any 800 megacycle radios included in this demonstrator package or this promotion at this particular time. Maybe at a later date we'll have some 800 megacycle radios for those who need those. Also, if you would care to call me, we'll see if we can put together a system for you. If we do have enough of a particular type that we'll say that you decide that you want to put in 2 or 3 mobiles and a base, if I can possibly put together a package for you using my stock of demonstrators, I'll sure go ahead and do that. We'll help you with licensing on this. We'll go ahead and we'll coordinate this. We'll put together anything that you so desire. We also have antennas. Of course, antennas be new antennas that would be included with these. And I guess I would like to stress one fact is we do not have, there is no junk, there is no used radios in this particular inventory that I'm including here.
Fine. Mike, I just want to assure people that you will be here or members of your sales staff. The numbers to call tonight directly to reach Mike or the sales staff people, 800-826-CALL, K-A-U-L, or in Wisconsin, 800-826-NOVA. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Reminder, we welcome you to call in anytime tonight. The numbers are on the screen. And we'd like to have you give a view now of some of the outstanding quality Qualtronics products.
The Trans 10 12-rib design by Qualtronics. This beautifully designed and crafted transparent antenna is setting the industry on its ear. With the latest in antenna technology, the 10 12-rib has strength, accuracy, and beauty at a price you won't believe until you experience in savings yourself. Baked acrylic, thermoset black finish, super strength rib, hub, and rim. Qualtronics means quality, and the Trans 10 12-rib lives up to the Qualtronic tradition.
The Trans 10 by Qualtronics. This eye-appealing transparent antenna has passed the stringent test of the McDonnell Douglas Corporation. It's approved for 2-degree spacing. In the words of McDonnell Douglas, the performance of the Trans 10 is equal to or greater than that of other antennas of similar size and construction. Not only does the Trans 10 perform, it's also covered by a 5-year limited warranty, and it's easy to look at. Its baked acrylic thermoset black finish gives it a low luster appeal. Yes, the Trans 10 is also built for strength. The patented rib design assures maximum reflector signal and better retention of panels in high wind areas. Independent tests have indicated that the Trans 10 will withstand wind velocities up to 90 miles per hour. The Trans 10 by Qualtronics, high in performance and strength, UPS shippable anywhere in the United States, an antenna for every season.
Here's the cable trencher that you've always looked for but have never found until now. The little dropper has durability, quickness, maneuverability, and economy all rolled up in its compact 3-wheel body. How does it rate with the competition? Let's watch. The little dropper starts out against a trencher that costs twice as much, but delivers only a fraction of the dropper's capabilities. Note the cleanness of the operation, its maneuverability, almost effortless. It weaves around obstacles with a nimbleness that makes the competition look like it's hibernating. Mission accomplished. The little dropper heads for a new site while the competition is still slugging it out. The little dropper handles 90% of all your trenching work. It saves time because you can drive it from site to site. It's rugged, dependable, and simple to operate. The little dropper has an extra heavy-duty clutch and a rear-end differential. Flotation-type tires are easy on the lawn, and it can be unhooked for other uses such as pulling a trailer. Looks great, drives great, and works great. And best of all, it costs less than you'd ever believe. Its base price at under $4,000. That's right, under $4,000 for the little dropper. Here's the perfect take-it-along or enjoy-it-at-home personal TV you've been looking for. It's a KTV, the name you can watch, in a compact 5-inch color TV with video monitor. That's right, video monitor with separate audio and video output input. The KTV has 3-way power capabilities, household AC, 12-volt DC using your car or boat battery, or D batteries for ultra portability. It's very light, less than 9.5 pounds, has a quick start picture tube, automatic gain control, electronic digital tuning with slide rule turning dial, and video monitor switching capability. The KTV has everything you ever wanted in a personal TV and video monitor. The price is sensational, just $239. That's right, $239 for this color TV with video monitor and 3-way power. For more information or to place your order, call now. The number is 800-826-KAUL. In Wisconsin, call 800-826-NOVA. Call right now. Our sales staff is standing by.
I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to talk to you about something that you're probably getting tired of hearing, and that's the scrambling issue. It's so crucial to this industry to really, it can make a difference. Call them and support space. Back to you, Joe.
Another reminder that tonight you can call in anytime. Our sales staff is standing by and welcomes your calls. In the U.S., 800-826-CALL, K-A-U-L. Here in Wisconsin, 800-826-NOVA, N-O-V-A. Next week, our special guest will be Craig Howard of Chaparral. And that's it for tonight on Calltronics Video Newsletter. Good evening.
Thank you, Joe. The conclusion of Satellite Showtime right after this.
The Luxor Mark II, a new generation of electronic excellence. The Mark II is a block satellite receiver system. It offers independent channel selection for multiple TV sets from a single antenna. In the home, for neighbors to share, in hotels, apartment, offices, and for licensed SMA TV redistribution to the entire community. The Mark II by Luxor does it all. You receive the best signal, the highest possible performance with Dolby high-fidelity sound. Other features include the individually programmed audio, AFC automatic fine-tuning controls, all on the 24 programmable channels. An infrared handheld remote will give complete control over the channel selection on any satellite. It's all so easy with Luxor Mark II. See it and then enjoy it. The Mark II does it all.
Welcome to the world of satellite TV opportunities, the Marketing Techniques magazine for satellite television that reviews the latest technology and introduces you to people you should know.
Satellite TV Opportunities is the Marketing Techniques magazine for satellite TV dealers. Our single purpose is to help dealers increase their sales and their profits through improved marketing techniques.
Call today for your subscription to success, 1-800-922-2812, Satellite TV Opportunities magazine.
That's all for this evening's Satellite Showtime, brought to you by our fine corporate sponsors, including Luxor North America and Calltronics Incorporated. On next week's Satellite Showtime, Mike Gustafson will have a review of an innovative new satellite product. Bob Cooper will continue his conversation with MACOM's Jim Bunker. You'll learn about aiming and tracking the satellites. That's all next week. But tonight, even after this show is over, there's more information to be had about the home satellite industry. It's on Comstar D4, Transponder 20, Audio Subcarrier 6.2. It's FM America with Keith LaMonica. Be sure to tune into that after this show is over. Also, another program about the home satellite industry is Boresight. That's on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern, Satcom 4, Transponder 20. Have a good week. Good night.